This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes, e-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics, and scheduling, Squarespace does it all and has done it for us for the last 11 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/Hugh for a free trial. And if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code Hugh at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant. And for those of you who don't know, although many of you already do, Claudia and I have run street photography workshops since 2019. Now, that's not the point, although we do have a couple of workshops coming up in October and November in New York and Tokyo, respectively. This is the point. Before each workshop, every single workshop, without fail, at least one attendee, it's usually a couple, asks me the same question. What gear should I bring? Fair enough. But they almost always expect me to say what they've heard so many times before, especially when it comes to street photography. One camera, one lens. If we're talking full frame or full frame equivalent, that typically means a 35 or a 50. The idea is travel light, be consistent. Constraints foster creativity. You'll thank me in the morning, which is true as far as it goes. But what I also hear underneath the question is a subtext, a request for dispensation, permission to bring more. Because, hey, what if? What if I want city compression? What if I can't zoom with my feet back far enough to get the full height of the building across the street? What if I want to be a bit more surreptitious by going a little bit longer instead of a 50, a 75, or a 90, or I want to go especially shallow, 1.4, 1.2, 1.0? The thing of it is, our attendees fly in from all over the world, some of them to see New York, Tokyo, London, Paris, Berlin for the first time. Might be their only time. And to wish after the fact that the one other lens or camera they should have brought instead sat on a shelf at home because of a misguided notion of discipline or suboptimally applied philosophy, fear of the schlepped, that's just a shame. Which is why I always answer the same way. Bring whatever you want or think you might want. Bring it all if you want, which, to be fair, usually means only one or two more lenses. Most often a more versatile 24-70 2.8 zoom if it's only going to be one, but sometimes something like an additional Sony 50-150 f2 or APS-C Fujifilm 150-600. I understand. Been there, done that, have the t-shirt. But here's the very next thing I say to them. Just promise me you'll do your best to keep one camera and one lens per shooting session because we typically have 4 to 6 in a 4-day span. There will be other opportunities. You get to apply what you learn. And the reality is it's easy enough to carry an extra camera or a couple of extra lenses in an onboard roller, a backpack, or a bag when you're on a plane, train, or automobile. But out on the street, yeah, you really do want to keep it light. The key is you arrive at your destination, hotel, Airbnb, friend's house, and this is where you have your armory. Out and about in a single session, you'll select one weapon for the particular set of opportunities you expect to encounter. Which is exactly what I did a couple of weeks ago in our most recent experiment, because that's when Claudia and I flew out to Seattle with a stop in Denver on the way back to see our children, our first grandchild, take in breathtaking landscapes, location scout, and to think a little more broadly about gear when traveling irrespective of genre. Not just for us or particularly for us, but for you, dear YouTube viewers. Claudia rolled her eyes in her usual good-natured way when I started muttering about too many choices, too little time, but that's only because she does not suffer this kind of malady. Her kit is always a Sony a7R5 with 50mm 1.4 G Master pretty much bolted on, with her 24-70 2.8 GM2 in a small shoulder bag just in case. Those 61 megapixels do the heavy lifting anywhere between that 24mm bottom end and call it up to 200mm cropped at the top. The interesting thing is she pretty much left the zoom at home. At the Airbnb. Hold that thought. Me, I brought my Q343. It's my go-to camera, although I didn't expect that I'd use it very much because I also brought my SL3 and Sigma 51.4 specifically to photograph our grandson indoors, natural daylight only. But I brought Sigma's 24-70 2.8 just in case. Both cameras were equipped, as always, with Helium Design Labs anti-theft, no-futs grips. Great in hand, great clipped on your belt or backpack strap, no separate QR plate needed. Great for when you're rushing to pack and leave by checkout time, and you've lost track of where you last put your camera. Find mine to the rescue. Not that you need it or anything. Not that I'm biased or anything. I also brought a 7-year-old 20-megapixel 1-inch sensor-equipped Sony RX107 with its 24-200mm full-frame equivalent integrated zoom as a true pocket camera for hiking at 7,500 feet and above in Colorado, anticipating I would not be capturing anything I'd want to print Mongo size anyway. And I brought Lumix's pretty great L10 with Panasonic's latest 26-megapixel Micro Four Thirds sensor and processor with their time-tested 24-75mm full-frame equivalent integrated zoom to explore splitting the difference across 5 very distinct choices. Here's what we learned on this trip. 1. I barely did use the Q343 because street is not what I was shooting. It wasn't my primary goal. 2. The Sigma 51.4 was exactly the lens I needed to capture heirloom photographs of my grandchild, my daughter, and my son-in-law indoors, as I said, natural light only. And these were the gifts I'd hoped to create for them, so that decades from now, they never forget how good this time was in their lives. 3. But I also learned that I can't go above ISO 12,800, and in fact should probably limit myself to 6,400 on the SL3 when human faces take up most of the frame. In hindsight, I didn't need the megapixels. Next time, to my surprise, I'll probably bring our 24-megapixel Lumix S1 Mark II instead. Same mount, nominally better high ISO noise performance, better autofocus too, although I had no problem in that department with the SL3. 4. The Sigma 24-70 2.8 DGDN R2 is even closer optically and mechanically to Claudia's benchmark G Master than I'd remembered. Practically a carbon copy in terms of performance, size, and weight. Fabulous at half the price. 5. The RX107 was close to a perfect companion up in the mountains. On Instagram, no one would discern a difference one way or the other between it at 200mm and the 24-70 at 70 on my 61-megapixel SL3. Save perhaps for dynamic range. But hey, Claudia and I exposed for the highlights, almost always willing to surrender shadow detail if necessary, and we were shooting base ISO. 6. But the EVF of the RX107 was actually too small for me. The autofocus showed its age, and the Lumix L10 offered marginally better image quality at equivalent fields of view and was simply much more enjoyable in my hand. I wouldn't want anything smaller, below 7,500 feet for serious work. 7. With that said, Claudia was blown away by how good the 107 was for its size and price. She is a fan. She thinks it's great for hikers too, but added this. She says it's a set-it-and-forget-it camera for snaps, especially compared to a smartphone. But the L10 gave her keepers on the streets of Osaka that she simply would not have been able to get at all with her bigger A7R5 kit. Between the two smaller cameras, Claudia thinks of the L10 as the more creative tool. 8. I wonder if, really I wish Sony would, put out an RX108 with a low-fix sensor and the same processor as the recently updated RX10 Mark V. The RX10 Mark V might have been even better than the RX107 in the mountains with its longer reach. Its greater size and weight likely an acceptable trade-off for Claudia, but neither of them, nor the L10, can compete with sensors in the A7R5 and SL3. Duh. 9. Claudia and I now agree on this too. We'll bring an Osmo Pocket 4P with us next time. It's too small, too light, and too good not to take so that we can add beautiful B-roll for you if the fancy strikes us. As for what I pack for our workshops, since nothing changes for Claudia, well, my primary street camera, as I said, remains Leica's Q3-43 with our Helium-3 grip. The lens on that camera is spectacular, as are the ergonomics. The 61 megapixel sensor gives me enormous cropping latitude. The autofocus is absolutely fit for purpose. It's an unobtrusive, relatively lightweight package, the grip transforming it into a frictionless carry, always at the ready. Not around my neck, not over my shoulder, but clipped to my belt, courtesy of that native Peak Design Capture clip compatibility. No extra QR plate, it's worth repeating. And, courtesy of our first patent, more patents pending, it allows one to use TTL automatic flash, something like the delightful little Godox IT32, in full automatic TTL mode, even with the grip and the modular thumb rest attached. We don't know of another grip that can do that, which wouldn't violate our patents and patents pending. The Q3-43's field of view is, for me, an optimal compromise between the classic 35 so many of us favor and the 50mm I grew up with. And the Apo Summicron 43 is the perfect complement to all that resolution. It lets me crop into more than double the effective focal length and still make metal prints 4 feet on the long side with ease. But when we're at our workshops, just shooting for ourselves or traveling someplace we've never been before, I also take what I call a bracket system to supplement it. Either my M11 with Voigtlander 90mm f2 Apo Ultron and the Leica 21 f3.4 Super Elmar, or 24 3.8 Elmar to give me options either side of where I shoot 90% of the time when I have the time to slow down, or when I want the highest keeper rate and or need weather resistance. IBIS, the best EVF for focusing manual glass in Leica's entire lineup, well, that's my SL3. Also with the Helium SL3 system plate, usually with Sigma's tiny jewel-like 17mm f4 and 90mm f2.8. If I know I want to go longer than that, or faster than that beyond what I can crop to, I'll bring the Sigma 70-200mm 2.8 and their 20mm f1.4. Also, killer lenses. And if I know I may want that extra stop of light the Q3-43 can't give me around that field of view, Sigma's 51.4. If I want the best image quality in the industry at 35 and 90, full frame, Apo Summicron SL35 or 90. But they do get heavy quickly, especially if I take both of them. As for my Hasselblad X2D2, well, I can duplicate the Q3-43's field of view with the 55V. And when I want the absolute highest resolution, the most amazing color science, and the best in-body image stabilization I have ever had in hand, for Mongo, archival prints viewed corner to corner at closer than normal viewing distances because I have a very specific idea of the precise subject, location, and time of day I want to shoot, I leave the 43 at home and take this instead. Now, I may take the 25V in addition to or instead of the 55V if I know I need to go wider. Perhaps bring the 75P for a slightly long normal, the full frame equivalent in that case of, call it a 60mm f3.2, and let those 102 megapixels do the heavy lifting between them. I love the 90V and own that too, but the difference in size, weight, and schlep usually leads me to that 75P instead. It is that good and gives up less than a stop of light gathering ability. Or I take the 35-100E instead of all of that, giving me the equivalent of 102 megapixel Q3-43 and OG 28mm Q3 and close enough to a full frame equivalent 90mm f2.8 in one lens, with twice the megapixel count of the SL3 to boot. But any X2D kit gets tiring quickly, especially for my wrist. Which is why one other travel kit, joy in hand and menu system only a mother could love aside, the one that keeps whispering sweet nothings to me as the schlep becomes ever more burdensome, well, that would be my Sony a7CR with a 16-25 2.8G, 35 or 51.4 G Master, and 70-200mm f4G OSS Mark II, or the G Master 2 if I really needed that extra stuff. The other thing we need to talk about is packing and schlepping it all, a gear category in and of itself many of us don't think about quite as critically as we do. And if you are more critical in your evaluations, please let us know in the comments section below. First things first, Claudia and I never pack beyond what we can bring on board an international flight. No checked bags, ever. No figuring out at the last second that international is more stringent than domestic. And we still have AirTags everywhere, in our carry-ons, with our passports, on our cameras, even with our wallets and our AirPods. That's the best reason to get Apple AirPods. Extra bodies, lenses, the bigger glass especially, go in one of our roll-ons. We use Mono's rollers with the hardshell outer sleeve for our laptops. They're acceptable to all international carriers on which we fly, including Lufthansa, which we've found to be the pickiest of all, especially when flying on one of their 747s. Both of us have our global entry and TSA pre-check numbers loaded into our frequent flyer programs. We don't bother with Clear Plus. Now, here's the key consideration. Everything you'd be genuinely sick about losing, and everything else you need to make the flight dramatically easier goes in your personal item. Hold that thought. For me these days, I carry either the Wotancraft Special Edition Chris Nichols Pilot 88 or Oberwerth's medium SL bag, which is easier to stow underneath or pull out mid-flight, and which is absolutely top tier. In any case, that bag does not leave your sight and has to be small enough so that you will still have space for your feet. One more tip before I continue. Charge everything the night before departure, when you are still a person with fully functioning, unclouded judgment, rather than morning of departure when stress often impairs it if you're anything like us. Other things for truly long-haul flights. 2 pairs of noise-canceling earbuds. My kit, AirPods Pro 2, and a pair of Bose QC buds, only because we got the Bose first. I like the my find of the Apple AirPods. Although, you do you. Fit matters more than anything else at this level anyway. Why 2 pairs? It isn't sound quality, although there are differences. It's math. Each pair runs about 6 hours before it needs a recharge. Nonstop long-haul flights run between 14 and 19 hours. You wear 1 pair, you swap, charge the dead pair, swap again, sometimes once or twice more after that. Carrying just a single good pair? 6 good hours, and then anywhere between 8 and 13 hours of jet engine noise, crying baby 4 rows up, or snoring directly behind you. Don't let that happen to you. So that's my complete answer to the best travel kit. Although the simplest questions do sometimes turn out to be much more complicated. It's the same one I give at every workshop to every person who asks me before they book the flight. And the same advice I take for myself. It's worth repeating. Bring everything, gear and what you need to maximize the probability of a good flight, because the cost of regret in either case could well exceed the cost of the schlep. But once you arrived and settled in, think through what you want from each individual shooting session before you leave the room, and pick a single kit if you can. And if, in hindsight, you realize you've made a mistake while you're still there, go back the next day with something else out of the armory. This is why you brought it all in the first place. As for what I've shared with you about what we use, that wasn't a set of recommendations, but instead a set of prompts to help you organize your thoughts for what you already have or need a dispensation to buy. Ricoh GR4 and call it a day? If that's your bag, great. iPhone alone? Why not? Nikon, Canon, Olympus, there are an incredible number of options available from every dedicated camera brand, and every camera brand has its adherence well earned. But the one kit I haven't shared with you, the one dark horse, do it all, we don't need no stinking bracket kit in the most compact and optically intriguing configuration that I actually own, but still haven't used in anger? Fujifilm X-E5, XF23 2.8 or Viltrox 27 1.2, XF 90mm f2 on the long end, XF 14mm f2.8 on the wide end for a full frame equivalent field of view of 21 to 135 millimeters. Yeah, I guess I'll have to do a video on that. Oh, that second irony, Take everything you think you might want just once, and the next time you won't have to ask. You'll already know what you truly need. And it will be less. Just saying. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes. E-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics and scheduling. Squarespace does it all and has done it for us for the last 11 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/Hugh for a free trial. And if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code Hugh at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. If you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, join the conversation in the comment section below because this is an exceptional audience. If you'd like help with a portfolio review, gear selection, finding or honing your artistic voice, sign up for a one-on-one mentoring video called via Zoom at 3bmep.com/booking. Finally, please consider supporting our work by using the no-cost You affiliate links down below, sending us coffee money via PayPal, or most especially, joining us on Patreon, links down below as well. However you choose to support us, as always, we thank you for it.